Beneath the calm surface of Lake Seneca, something ancient is rumored to dwell, a mysterious presence believed to have existed for thousands of years. Seneca is only one of several lakes we'll explore in this episode, each hiding strange, chilling secrets. Don't miss what's coming next. On the evening of July 14, 1899, Captain Carlton S. Herendine stood at the helm of his paddle steamer, the Otetiani, crossing New York's mysterious Lake Seneca. This lake had inspired awe and caution long before European settlers arrived. Native American tribes spoke of a fierce creature living within its depths. Many dismissed these tales as folklore, but what happened that night would change everything. At around 7 p.m., passengers were enjoying a peaceful cruise when Captain Herendine and his boatswain, Frederick Rose, noticed something unusual in the water about 365 meters ahead. They initially thought it was an overturned boat, dark in color, about 15 feet long with a sharp prow and a long, narrow stern. Thinking there had been an accident, Captain Herendine ordered the steamer to slow down, preparing for a rescue. But then, something remarkable happened. The overturned boat began to move, not drifting with the wind or waves, but in a deliberate direction. Puzzled, Captain Herendine adjusted course to follow it, and soon, the object revealed itself in shocking detail. The narrow end of the boat opened up, exposing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Captain Herendine would later describe a creature far larger than they had thought, nearly 25 feet in length, with a massive tail that widened like a whale's. He estimated its weight to be around 1,000 pounds. But what transfixed everyone on board was the head triangular, about 4 feet long, with teeth like a blend between a shark's and a sperm whale's. The creature's body seemed to be encased in thick, armor-like plating, similar to a tortoiseshell, with an unusual brown-green hue. Its creamy white underbelly showed as it moved, and its large, round, unblinking eyes gave it an otherworldly presence. Captain Herendine, an experienced sailor, had never encountered anything like this. Acting on impulse, he made a bold decision. He would ram the creature head-on. Realizing the risk of confronting such a formidable beast, Captain Herendine ordered his crew to prepare all life-saving equipment. The Washington Weekly Post would later document the incredible events that followed. The Otetiani backed away, lining up for a direct charge. At Captain Herendine's signal, they surged forward. The tension on deck was palpable, every passenger fixed on the terrifying creature, which seemed strangely aware of their intentions. The thing lurking in Lake Seneca's depths was far more intelligent and far more terrifying than they had ever expected. As the Otetiani charged forward, the creature seemed to look directly at the ship, as if it understood their intent. At the last possible moment, it dove beneath the water and the steamer passed over where it had been. Some passengers swore they could see its dark outline slipping below the surface. Just as the steamer resumed its regular route, a woman's scream pierced the air. She was pointing. There it was again. The creature had resurfaced, about 50 yards away, nearly at the exact spot where it had initially disappeared. Captain Herendine made a strategic change. Instead of ramming it head-on, he maneuvered so that the Otetiani's starboard paddle wheel would strike the creature's midsection. The steamer gathered speed again, but this time the creature seemed oblivious, perhaps exhausted or simply not expecting a second attack. The impact was sudden, a loud, sickening thud that reverberated through the steamer. The force of the collision was so intense that passengers were thrown across the deck, and for a moment the ship nearly capsized. If not for the crew's swift actions, disaster would have been inevitable. Silence settled over the ship as everyone waited, tense and unmoving. Then, they saw it. The creature's large, lifeless form floated beside the Otetiani, a massive wound visible along its side. In what appeared to be its final moments, it lifted its head one last time and emitted a sound witnesses described as a sigh before falling still. The impact had broken its spine. The fabled monster of Lake Seneca was dead. But the encounter wasn't over. The crew quickly lowered a boat, intending to secure the carcass with ropes and hooks. Everyone on board pitched in, managing to lift most of the creature's enormous body out of the water. Yet, just as they thought they'd secured it, the rope near the tail slipped, and the immense weight shifted. As the tail dropped back into the water, the remaining rope slipped through everyone's hands despite their desperate efforts to hold on. Within seconds, they lost their grip entirely, and the creature's body splashed back into the lake. As soon as the body hit the water, it began sinking. The spot where it went down was over 600 feet deep, and everyone knew anything that sank to such depths in Lake Seneca would be lost forever. They stood in silence, watching their proof of the incredible encounter disappear into the lake's dark abyss. But before it sank, several highly credible witnesses had observed it up close. This was not a random group of bystanders. They included Albert L. Fowle and D.W. Halenbeck, both public works officials, George C. Schell, a police commissioner, Fred S. Bronson, a manager for Geneva Telephone Company, Charles E., a Philadelphia business salesman, and Professor George R. Elwood, a geologist from Ontario. When newspapers across America picked up the story, speculation ran wild about the creature's origins. Professor Elwood, who had examined it himself, proposed a fascinating theory. He believed it might have been a clade, a type of extinct prehistoric sea lizard from the mosasaur family, that had survived by hiding in the underwater caves and tunnels woven through the depths of Lake Seneca. Others speculated it could have been a wayward whale, a massive fish, or even an unknown species of turtle. Some thought it might be a completely new discovery for science. After that day in 1899, the creature was never seen again. The ancient Native American legends of a fierce beast in Lake Seneca may not have been mere tales after all. Perhaps this creature, struck by the Otetiani on that fateful summer evening, was the last of its kind, a relic of another age now resting in the lake's hidden depths. And who knows, Lake Seneca's underwater caves may still conceal secrets yet to be uncovered. Legends often hold a kernel of truth, and sometimes even the most unbelievable tales prove to have some basis in reality. On a chilly morning in 1989, Don Maxwell, a pilot with a passion for early morning flights, was soaring over Lake Storsjön in Sweden. Don, a resident of Jämtland, loved to fly low over the lake, marveling at the untouched wilderness below. Like others who grew up in the area, he had heard tales of Storsjöodjuret, the legendary creature said to dwell in the lake's depths. Descriptions portrayed it as a massive serpent-like creature, over 30 feet in length, with a series of humps trailing along its back. Although Don often looked down at the dark, still waters, wondering if the stories held any truth, he was a practical and professional pilot. The idea of a prehistoric creature lurking in a Swedish lake seemed too fantastical to entertain seriously. This morning was no different. Don cruised at a low altitude, watching the early sunlight sparkle on the glassy water below, tranquil and undisturbed. Then, something shifted. The water began to churn and bubble as if something massive was stirring beneath the surface. Don's initial reaction was to rationalize what he saw. Perhaps it was a large object, maybe even a submarine, though he knew full well that no submarines roamed these waters. But as he watched, an enormous dark shape rose slowly, breaking the lake's surface. Don could see 5 distinct humps trailing behind a massive head. He strained to find a logical explanation, but as he took in every detail, reason slipped away. The creature's front hump bore whisker-like hairs, fine and distinct, certainly no feature of a submarine or any machine. This thing was alive. As it rose fully into view, the beast appeared as though it had swum straight out of a medieval legend. Don's heart pounded as he stared in awe and terror at its massive, segmented form stretching out over the water. Its head was enormous, and it began to breathe in quick, forceful bursts, each exhale disturbing the lake's surface. Then, as if sensing his presence, the creature lifted its head and fixed its gaze directly on his plane. At that moment, Don felt a primal fear he had never known. He was not merely looking at an unknown creature, he felt as if he was staring back through thousands of years into a time of myth and monsters. The beast let out a deep, thunderous hiss that echoed across the lake. Don's hands trembled on the controls, and for the first time in his life, he feared he might lose control of his aircraft. Instinct took over. Forcing himself to look away, Don focused intensely on his instrument panel, gripping the controls tightly to steady himself. He dared not glance back down, certain that even a quick look would push him to panic. Every fiber of his being was concentrated on reaching the safety of solid ground. He aimed his plane toward the shoreline, his hands locked on the controls, refusing to let his gaze drop even for a moment. The thought of that creature lurking below, perhaps still watching, sent a chill through him. All he could think about was making it back to safety. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Don landed safely. After landing safely on a small airstrip, Don Maxwell sat in his cockpit for a long while, shaken and unsure of what he had just witnessed. He knew people would doubt his story, dismissing it as drunken imagination or hallucination. But Don was certain of his sobriety, and the image of that creature was now seared into his mind forever. This encounter fundamentally changed him. Once a skeptic who scoffed at folklore, Don had become a true believer. Today, Don still flies over Lake Sturgeon, but with a much different perspective. When he's grounded, he's often on the lake's shore, binoculars in hand, scanning the water's surface. His sighting remains one of the most credible modern accounts of the lake's elusive creature. Those who know Don, esteemed as a level-headed professional pilot, find it hard to dismiss his story. Though what he saw that morning in 1989 remains a mystery, his experience has added new weight to local legends. Our story shifts to a sunny afternoon in July 1960, when a team of U.S. Navy specialists was stationed aboard a small research vessel on Washington state's Lake Chelan. This body of water stretches over 88 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide, making it the largest natural lake in the state, and a popular destination for boating, fishing, and recreation. The Navy team was excited about testing their advanced sonar equipment here, confident that this vast lake was the perfect setting. As they began taking sonar readings, something unexpected happened. Their equipment failed to register any echoes. Each time they tried, the sonar returned no readings. It was as if Lake Chelan had no bottom. The lead technician was perplexed, knowing their equipment was in perfect working order, having tested it just the day before. The lake's average depth was supposed to be about 114 meters, with a maximum depth of around 453 meters. Yet their readings showed nothing. At this point, a local guide on board shared a chilling piece of local lore. According to generations of residents, Lake Chelan was known as a bottomless lake. Even during periods of extreme drought, the lake's true bottom had never been seen. Native tribes had even named the lake a term that translates to deep lake in respect to its mystery. In 1960, researcher Henry Persona published an article in Documenting Eerie Local Legends Surrounding Lake Chelan. His findings revealed something disturbing. Native tribes did not only believe the lake to be bottomless, they warned of something that dwelled in the depths. Their tales spoke of a network of underwater caves, hidden far beneath the surface, housing a monstrous water beast. This creature was said to emerge to attack anyone who disrespected the lake. The legend was taken so seriously that the tribes would avoid certain parts of the lake and were cautious even with fishing. When European settlers arrived, they dismissed these stories as superstitions, until the attacks began. Early reports came from farmers along the shoreline who discovered livestock with massive bite marks, or in some cases, animals that had simply disappeared. Eyewitnesses claimed to see something strange in the water. One group of farmers herding cattle near the lake reported a sighting of what looked like a gigantic crocodilian creature. The creature allegedly lunged onto the shore, seized one of their cows and dragged it back into the depths. Other witnesses described a different creature entirely, more akin to Scotland's famed Loch Ness monster, with a long neck and serpent-like form. The variations led many to believe there were two separate creatures haunting the lake, each terrifying in its own way. Though these sightings were often dismissed as fanciful or exaggerated, the local accounts persisted, strengthening the enduring mystique of Lake Chelan. To this day, the lake's true depths and what might dwell within remain an unsolved mystery. In the summer of 1965, an experienced local fisherman named Bill Crawford had an encounter that left him utterly shaken. Bill, who had fished Lake Chelan for nearly 2 decades, was on his boat one calm morning near the lake's center, enjoying the ideal fishing conditions. Without warning, something enormous surfaced right next to his boat. Later, he would tell a local newspaper that the creature he saw was easily 30 feet long, with dark, intelligent eyes that stared directly at him. Its head alone matched the size of his boat's motor. However, what startled Bill most was its calm, deliberate movement. It didn't thrash like a fish or reptile but circled his boat slowly, almost studying him. Before he could react, the creature vanished, sinking straight down vertically, almost like an elevator. He watched the water churn where it had descended for nearly 5 minutes. There's something particularly intriguing about Lake Chelan. This lake sits atop one of North America's most complex underwater cave systems, with geological surveys revealing extensive tunnels and chambers carved deep into the surrounding mountains. The network is so vast that even with modern technology, it remains largely unmapped. This could explain why the Navy's sonar struggled to get a reading in certain spots. Rather than hitting solid ground, the signals were likely lost in the openings of these immense caves. This insight sheds new light on generations of local legends. The native tribes claimed the lake had no bottom, and in some areas they were correct. The cave system's vastness also explains the differing creature sightings. People might have glimpsed the creature at varying angles and from different cave exits. Sometimes they saw just the head and neck rising from the water, giving it a serpent-like or plesiosaur appearance. Other times they saw its full, massive body emerging onto shore, giving it a crocodilian look. Despite our best technology and countless attempts to explore these mysterious depths, no one has been able to confirm or dismiss the existence of Lake Chelan's legendary beast. The caves are simply too extensive and too deep for a full exploration. Curiously, local tribal elders never seem surprised by this failure to uncover the lake's mysteries. One elder famously remarked, "Some things aren't meant to be found. That creature has been here since our ancestors' time, and it'll be here long after we're gone." Thank you for following this mysterious journey to the very end. If you enjoyed diving into this tale of the unknown, be sure to comment below, so I know you're one of the dedicated ones who stayed until the end. And if you crave more tales of the supernatural and mysterious, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more stories just like this one. As always, keep an open mind, and I'll see you all in the next episode.